After spending months traveling around Southeast Asia with our 7-year-old, now 8-year-old, here's everything I wish I'd known before we started. From family budget to accommodation, transport tips, and what gear you're actually going to use and what you won't need. This is your ultimate guide to traveling with your family in Southeast Asia without breaking the bank. Last year, we left the UK to travel in Southeast Asia as a family of 3. We started in Thailand, and then we went to Vietnam, Cambodia, and then back to Thailand, and then Singapore. Myself and Jeff have travelled extensively in Southeast Asia over the last 20 years. We actually met in Thailand at a full moon party, and then we went back to Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, and many other countries over the last 20 years. But this was our first time taking our son, and traveling as a couple and traveling as a family is different, but it doesn't have to be difficult. What does it really cost? Okay, so we are budget travelers. We don't do the luxury accommodation. We don't spend a fortune on activities. We always try to keep our costs low. For us as a family of 3, our daily budget on average was between $60 to $70 per day. That includes accommodation, food, scooter hire, and things like ice cream or water. Obviously, it varies from place to place. If you're going to be staying in a very, very touristy area, the daily costs are going to be higher. If you're going to be staying in a more local, sort of off the beaten track area, then the costs are going to be much, much lower. And it depends how you live. If you eat with the locals, if you eat in local market stores on the side of the road, your costs are going to be way lower than if you're going to eat in the hotels, in the bars, in the restaurants along the beachfront. We did find though that when we slowed down with traveling, our costs plummeted. So if you stay in one place for a month or more, you can usually negotiate on the cost of accommodation. So you're going to pay less per night if you stay for a month than if you stay for a couple of nights only. Plus you can save on things like food, because when you're staying somewhere for a while, you tend to get somewhere with maybe a fridge, and you can get maybe a kettle. So what we would do is we would have breakfast in our room most days. So we'd buy yogurt and fruit, things like that, and milk and cereal, and then I could make breakfast for us in the morning, saving us a fortune if we'd had breakfast out every day. But don't forget the hidden costs as well. So for example, you need to remember visas. If you're traveling to more than one country or staying somewhere for a long time, visas are going to cost you money. You've got to think about onward flights or onward transport as well to different countries. But obviously flying is going to cost you a lot of money. Overland travel on trains or buses is going to save you much more. Think about things like laundry and SIM cards. Always buy a local SIM card when you arrive at your destination. Don't buy it at the airport because they cost more. Don't get an eSIM unless you need one just for a couple of days, because they're extortionate pricing. And laundry, budget for laundry. If you get it done by somebody else, it adds up if you're getting laundry done a couple of times a week. But in many places there is a laundromat, a self-serve laundromat where you can do your own laundry. And sometimes, if you really need to, you can always get some detergent, a bucket of water, and wash things in the sink. This is what we did a few times too. And then don't forget about health insurance, travel insurance. A lot of people I know travel without travel insurance, but I really think it's worth getting. I think it's very, very important, especially when you've got kids. I have traveled for many years and I've needed my travel insurance 3 times. I broke my wrist in Thailand. I got a nasty infection in Sri Lanka that I ended up in hospital, and I dislocated my shoulder in Thailand many, many years ago. You need to have travel insurance that covers the hospitalization, medical care, possibly repatriation at the minimum. That way, if the worst happens and you do need medical care, you know that it's paid for. You don't want to be out of pocket by thousands just because you wanted to save a couple of hundred. We don't, however, buy the travel insurance that has all the other bells and whistles. Like, it doesn't matter to us if things get stolen or if our flights are delayed, then we will deal with it. But it's because we are traveling for a long time. We're not on a tight schedule, so it doesn't matter if things are delayed too much. And I've heard so many horror stories of people getting their belongings stolen, valuables stolen, and then the travel insurance doesn't cover it for some reason. So for me personally, or for us, we don't bother with that side of travel insurance. It's purely for medical care. But obviously, this is your choice. This is something you should look into and decide for yourselves. Money and ATMs. Cash is often king in Southeast Asia still. It's always worth having some cash with you. If you're going to markets, to small shops around towns, most smaller restaurants and cafes for coffee, they will take cash. A lot of them, it's cash only. So make sure you have enough cash with you for your days, most purchases during the day. Having said that, card payments are becoming more and more common in Southeast Asia. Obviously, the bigger hotels, bigger restaurants, more upmarket cafes and restaurants and hotels are going to accept cards. If you're paying for something that's a high cost, so for example, flights, tours, things like that, they will probably accept cards. ATM fees can be quite high though in Southeast Asia. For example, I think in Thailand it's between 200 to 300 baht per transaction, which adds up when you're taking cash out quite a lot. So a tip for that is to make sure you take the maximum amount of cash per transaction. So if the maximum is say 5,000 baht, take 5,000 baht out. I know it's a lot of money, keep it safe. But then you're only going to get charged a 200 baht once rather than many times. We've used quite a lot of different cards, international money cards, during our time traveling. We've used our own banks, we've used travel agents' cards, we've used Wise, and we've used Revolut. At the moment, we're using Revolut. They have a certain amount of free ATM transactions per month. It's a free account, there's no monthly fee, and they have quite a lot of currencies you can load onto that card. Obviously, bear in mind, even though the Revolut card might be free transactions, ATM transactions, the local ATMs charge you. So the local banks are still charging you. And then I think in terms of cash, carrying cash, using ATMs, using your card, the same rules apply in Southeast Asia as they do anywhere else. Just be careful, just be mindful of your environment. You know, don't leave your bag there. Watch out for ATM card skimmers. Use hotel safes if they're available. Don't carry lots of cash with you. Just be aware of your environment and be aware of what you're doing, and look after yourself, look after your money. So what's the essential family travel gear? So think about what's actually useful for your kids, but also think about how you're going to use those items in Southeast Asia. For example, if your kids are young and are still in a pushchair or a buggy or stroller, it's going to be really difficult to use that in Southeast Asia. Obviously, if you're on beaches, it's hard work, but a lot of the pavements in Southeast Asia are not great. So if you have a young kid, I'd recommend a baby carrier of some sort rather than a pushchair, because it would be hard work on some of the roads and pavements. We use packing cubes when we pack, kind of similar to this. It just helps things stay organised a little bit, at least, when we're travelling. So you can put clothes in them, you can put toys in them, just to keep things in separate areas, keep things organised, so when you get to your destination, you know exactly where everything is. You can pull out your little cube and you're unpacked. Because we always hire scooters or mopeds, myself and Jeff just get a helmet from the shop that we hire the scooter from, but we do buy one for Jai. We did buy one for Jai when we were in Thailand, and then we just carried that with us around Southeast Asia, which was a bit bulky and a bit difficult sometimes with on flights, but so worth doing because we knew the helmet fitted his head, we knew it was comfortable, we knew it was adjusted to his head, we knew it was safe, we knew it hadn't been damaged, it was brand new. And obviously something like that is really important when you're riding a scooter with a small child. We always make sure we have refillable water bottles as well. The amount of water you drink in Southeast Asia, getting through all those little plastic bottles is just criminal. So have something you can refill. We carry laundry detergent sheets rather than liquid or anything, because it fits easily into your bag. And if you do need laundry detergent, you have it. But it's not going to leak anywhere, so it's ideal for travel. Obviously mosquito repellent, first aid kit, and what you don't need is lots and lots of toys. It's difficult to tell your kid that you can't take all the things that you love. We limit space with Jai, so he has this amount of space in his bag for toys, and once that's full, that's it. We find that he doesn't play with half the things he brings anyway, and when we get to our destination, there's world schoolers, there's other kids that we meet, but also there's markets and things when he buys new toys anyway. So half of his toys get forgotten about at the bottom of his bag. You're better off not carrying too many toys with you. Where to stay? So there are as many options in Southeast Asia as there are anywhere else. You can stay in budget guest houses, luxury resorts, you can stay in homestays with families, Airbnb, apartments, family rooms, in hotels, house sitting. We love using booking.com. We also love just turning up at a place, in a destination, and finding somewhere. What I tend to do is I look on booking.com, I see the area that we're staying in, I know roughly what's available, roughly what things cost, and then when we arrive, rather than booking anything before, we actually just go and find somewhere to stay. It's worked out really well so far because we've managed to negotiate on price with a lot of hostels and guest houses, so we pay a lot less than on booking.com. Plus, it's a really good way of getting a feel for the area, so you know where you want to stay and where you don't want to stay because you can see it. You know, you don't want to book somewhere online and then you get there and you find it's right next to a building site or right next to an all-night club or something. The only time I book online in advance is if we arrive late at night. So I'll book for a night or two, and then it gives us time to find somewhere when we arrive. In terms of accommodation price, obviously it varies. If you're staying in a tourist beach town, then it's going to be a lot higher than if you're staying in a small local kind of area. We've found the price of accommodation has gone up significantly since we travelled as a couple, which is fair. I mean, everything's gone up, hasn't it? But where we used to pay 50 to 100 baht a night in Thailand now is at least 500 to 1,000 baht a night. So things are more expensive than they were. It is still possible to find cheap accommodation. We stayed in Chiang Mai in the old city centre. We had 2 rooms out the back of a yoga studio. It cost us 300 baht a night. But Jeff found that and he negotiated with them. So it depends how confident you are in bartering, really. Jeff's very good at it. How to get around in Southeast Asia. There are so many options. You can get taxis, you can get tuk-tuks, you can get a Grab, you can have your own bike, scooter, moped, and you can get around independently. We always tend to hire a scooter when we arrive somewhere. It's perfect for the 3 of us. Di will sit either in the middle or in the front. He loves it, he has a great time, and we can scoot about town and don't have to rely on tuk-tuks or taxis. Word of warning, if you're going to do this, make sure you get an international driver's license first. We didn't have one in Thailand this year and we got stopped by the police and we got a 500 baht fine for not having an international driving license. Get one in your country before you leave. They don't cost much. We've got some for our next trip, so yeah, little tip. In terms of long distance travel, we prefer to do overland travel. Of course you can fly. Flights are always available. We always get an overnight bus or train if possible. Trains are much more fun. I mean, and obviously you can walk around. Some of the VIP buses are really excellent. Some are not as good. So do your research when you're there. We like 12 Go when we're booking buses and trains. And you can see pictures of the buses and you can see reviews as well. So you can kind of choose which one you want to use. We've had overnight buses in Thailand where the seat reclines, and they're not the best, but you know, you can get a couple of hours sleep. We've also had overnight buses in Cambodia where you have a full bed, like the whole seat is actually a bed. So you get into your little cabin, close the curtains, and you can sleep. Trains you usually have, depends where you are, but you usually have a sleeper bed. So you can it'll either be a private cabin with a certain number of beds, or maybe it's the seats actually go flat and the conductor will come down and make the beds up for you. The trains are always really good fun as well, because they tend to bring around tea or breakfast or coffee or dinner, and so you can try some different food and different drink. Some tips for overnight travel: always bring snacks. Whether you're on the bus or the train, make sure you have snacks, because you'll get peckish, kids will definitely get hungry. Kids need snacks constantly. So make sure you have plenty of food. Make sure you bring things to do as well, because you won't be sleeping the whole time. So bring books, bring little games, bring whatever it is that your kids love doing. One of our longest journeys we did was from Saigon in Vietnam up to Hoi An, and I think it was about, 16 hours or something. But it was so much fun because we had our own cabin. They brought us dinner, they brought us snacks, they brought us drinks, we had a menu and breakfast in the morning. It was kind of unidentifiable meat, but if you like to experience something different, I would highly recommend it. It's much more fun than flying as well, because flying you don't see anything. But if you travel by train, especially by train, but by bus as well, you get to see more of the area, you get to see more of the country that you're in, and you get to meet locals and other travellers. So some general tips and lessons learnt over the months of travelling. Stay longer in less places. Rather than moving around from place to place and trying to fit so much in, if you stay somewhere for longer, you'll get a whole different experience. Yes, you'll save money because you can barter on price of accommodation, you can save money on food if you can cook for yourself sometimes, but also you actually get to experience the area that you're in. You get to make friends with locals. Maybe you do world schooling as well, and you get to see a side of where you are that you wouldn't get to see if you were just rushing through for a few days here and a few days there. Don't over-plan. So don't over-plan your days, but don't over-plan your whole trip if you can help it. If you're away for months or even a year, a gap year or longer, don't have a set itinerary for everything you're going to do over the whole year. Try and be flexible. Try and go with the flow a little bit, because we find that when you're in somewhere like Southeast Asia, there are so many things to see and do. There are so many incredible places, and you don't want to be rushing through places to get to the next place. But also you might get somewhere and realise you don't actually like it that much, and maybe you meet people who are going somewhere else and you'd like to go there with them. Flexibility is really important. Make sure you have down days, right? So when you're somewhere and there are so many activities to do, there's so many temples to see and beaches to see and activities happening and things to do, it's hard to kind of slow down, but it's really important to have days where you just do nothing. I'm willing to bet that one of the reasons why you're doing this is because of the stress and the pressure of work and school in your home country. So why bring that stress and pressure to your travel? Have days where you literally just slow down and do nothing. Just be with each other. Just have fun. Maybe you'll play games together in your room. Maybe you'll have a slow walk on the beach. Whatever. Maybe you'll play football with the local kids. The days where you don't plan anything can be just as valuable and fun as days where you go to that big water park or have the big experiences. Traveling Southeast Asia with kids isn't always easy, but it is really rewarding. We have absolutely loved being in Southeast Asia with our little boy, and it's part of the world that is safe, accessible, so much to see and do, so many world schooling hubs as well, and just stunning. So if you want more family travel tips and resources and real life travel stories from a family who are out there doing it too, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to follow us on the blog and on Instagram as well.